Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we have breaking news out of San Francisco as the 49ers have re-signed tight end George Kittle to a massive, record-breaking $76.4 million contract extension with $40 million guaranteed. It's a massive move. It's a big move, and we're going to dissect everything you need to know about George Kittle's brand new extension with the San Francisco 49ers, what it means for San Francisco, what it means for Kittle, and what it may mean for Brock Purdy here in the near future. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, give us that 5-star audio podcast review, and let's dive into George Kittle's brand new $76.4 million extension right here on 49ers Access. The 49ers are coming off of adding 11 players to their roster at the NFL Draft, and what was a busy weekend, a polarizing weekend, has now turned into a really good week for Niner fans and the team itself. They avoided the long contract holdout. They bucked the trend, albeit Brock Purdy's deal has yet to be done. But George Kittle, a lot of people out there were worried that, is this thing going to linger? Is this thing going to cost them a few weeks of OTAs, of training camp? And I told everybody, sit back, relax, give them some time. We knew George, who didn't come to the first pre-draft OTAs or voluntary workouts, because he never does. Despite the reporting from Diana Rossini, it wasn't a big deal. Everybody was freaking out. Oh my God, he's not there, but Warner's there, but Brock Purdy's there, but Trent Williams is there. Where's George Kittle? He's at WrestleMania. He never shows up for those days, but he got back in the building prior to the draft, leading into the NFL Draft, has been there ever since. He was there and greeted Mike Williams, this team's first-round pick, over the weekend on Friday. He was at the building, and it shows you the commitment he has to the organization, despite not having his new contract, but now that's completely changed. Kittle has re-upped for 4 years, $76.4 million, making him the NFL's highest-paid tight end of all time. He gets $19.1 million per year. That is $0.1 million more than Cardinals tight end Trey McBride, who just recently had a brand new contract extension given to him this offseason. So Kittle gets exactly what he wants. Not $80 million, not $20 per year, just a smidge over the new contract McBride got, giving Kittle the title of highest paid tight end in National Football history. I think it's a great move for San Francisco, and it is very much deserved for George Kittle. You know, for a team that is going through this kind of retooling, trying to rekindle magic, brought back Saleh in, a lot of people are connecting, Mike Williams is the Eric Armstead, Alfred Collins is the DeForest Buckner, West is the DJ Jones. They're trying to bring back the magic. When you're going through that and you're banking on young players stepping up in a big way, Ayuk's going to be out, DeMarcus Robinson could be suspended, Christian McCaffrey has some injury history. You're asking guys like Jordan Watkins, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Tariq Owens, Jordan James, Isaac Arendo, guys that you have high hopes for, but you need to step up in big ways for you, either in year one or year two. You got to have guys like George Kittle in the building. Yes, locker room guy, good vibes, always enthusiastic. I always go back to, when San Francisco's down against the Lions in the NFC title game in 2023, and it looks like it's over. Like, you're dreading what's going to happen. What does George do? He goes to Brock Purdy and essentially tells him, they had us in the first half, but we're going to show them in the second half. And I can't wait to tell you that when it's all said and done. And Brock's like, George, shut the hell up, man. Like, I'm not in the mood to hear your enthusiasm. And then George runs up to Purdy afterwards saying, I told you so, I told you so. You have to have guys like that in your room. A massive leader for this organization, been there since day one. Imagine this, and it's very timely because we're coming out of the NFL draft where they had some reaches. There was some controversial picks. Nick Martin, pick 75. Upton Stout, pick 100. Jordan Watkins, Curtis Rourke. There was some picks that are questionable and are going to be throughout the time until they prove themselves with the 49ers, but they've had big whiffs in the past. George Kittle and Fred Warner may be their biggest hits of all time. Obviously, Brock Purdy's in there too, but this is from the very beginning, where it's a brand new regime, brand new organization, or coming into the organization, brand new head coach, brand new GM, guys that are unproven, that are maybe a little green. And don't forget, John Lynch was doing TV at the time, and they miss on Solomon Thomas. They take a gamble on Reuben Foster and miss there, and they missed a lot of that first year. Their first big hit was George Kittle, and he's going to get his third contract, now has his third contract with the team, going to be a lifelong 49er. This is essentially them telling us, the fans, the team, like, look, we're not rebuilding, and we have to have guys like George to help carry us into a retooling season and hopefully through that in the future. He'll be 36 when his contract is done. I'm assuming that'll be his last year as an NFL player. Maybe I'm wrong there, but he's showing no signs of slowing down. 1,000 yards last year plus, almost 10 touchdowns. Him and Brock Purdy have tremendous chemistry. And we'll get into Brock a little later, but you pair those two guys together for the next 4 to 5 seasons, you got a pretty good, if not the best, quarterback tight end combination in football. It's awesome. This is a great day for San Francisco 49er fans, a great day for George Kittle. And it's funny because George pushed back on the reports saying he wants to be the highest paid tight end. He wants to get this record-breaking contract. He's not there because of the money, and a lot of that is true. He didn't want those things, but he got those things, right? George barely became the highest paid tight end. And honestly, for someone like myself who was saying probably like $20 million per year, you could say $0.9 million per year and only guarantee $40 million part of the contract. That's a pretty good deal for San Francisco as well. It does set themselves up for a good Brock Purdy contract in the future. But going back to my previous point, that when you're going into a retooling, a rekindling of what you hope can be some magic from 2019 again, you bring back Solid, you bring in Brant Boyer, you cut almost your entire defensive line, and you're bringing in young guys that have to prove themselves. You got to have pieces like George Kittle. You have to have reliable leadership, enthusiastic, energy people, and also you have to have damn good football players. This, I think, is an indication that they're not rebuilding. I don't know where that thought came from. I get it. This offseason was tricky. A lot of players cut. A lot of players willingly leaving. San Francisco not trying to bring back Talanoa Hufanga. The only player they really tried to bring back was Dre Greenlaw, letting Elijah Mitchell and Jalen Moore and Aaron Banks go. Like, this is a mass exodus of people, and Niner fans were kind of like, what's happening? But you re-signed George Kittle, and a lot of people who said Jed York is cheap and this team's not going to spend money, it's a reallocation of funds, right? They have to redo Kittle's deal. That's done. Redo Purdy's deal. That'll get done soon, hopefully. Fred Warner wants a brand new contract. I'm not sure exactly what the details are just yet of Kittle's contract. They'll come out in the next few days or so, but it's going to lower his cap hit and going to save them money initially to help pay Brock Purdy and maybe sign somebody else or make a trade. This team doesn't have a swing tackle, so maybe it gives them room to do that too. I think it's a great move for San Francisco, and ultimately it's the right move. When I think of the 49ers and players that mean the most to me, I think of when I was younger, Frank Gore, Joe Staley, Patrick Willis. Now, it pains me, and I'm sure it pains you as well, that Frank Gore was never a lifelong 49er. Now, there's reasons as to why you can justify, obviously, getting older, couple head coaching changes involved in there. And we can all say, that sucks, but it makes sense. But I love the fact that Joe Staley is a lifelong 49er. I love the fact that, Patrick Willis, for as short as his career was a lifelong 49er. I wish people like Frank Gore, like Navarro Bowman, like Joe Montana, like Jerry Rice, those guys should have been lifelong 49ers. And it sucks when those guys aren't going to be. And it kind of, I don't want to say taints their legacy, but it does leave like a little bit of like, oh man, like why couldn't they have been in the group of players you say are lifelong San Francisco 49ers to only don red and gold? And a lot of people, well, not a lot, but some people were loudly proclaiming they should trade George Kittle, get out of the contract. He's old, 31 years old. He can't get it done. He can't do this. And I think it's ignorance. Travis Kelce's 35 years old. George Kittle can play until he's 36. I get it. Different brand of football. They're utilized different. But you sign Luke Farrell to, fingers crossed, hopefully alleviate some of the inline blocking that Kittle has to do. Get him more involved in the receiving game. Maybe take some of Deebo Samuel's plays. Not directly, but have a higher impact as a receiver to replace Deebo's production of previous seasons. And I think that, as Kittle gets older, you're probably going to see him be blocking less and less. But I think it's also important to say that George Kittle is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He's already this franchise's number one tight end. You have to bring those guys back. Like, you don't let people like George Kittle leave your building. Obviously, a culture guy, that's a guarantee. Like, that's who he is. He'll pick you up when you're down, and he'll pick you up when you don't need to pick up at all. That's just who George Kittle is, always smiling. If you've been to games or training camp or practice, if he's on the sideline, it's a lively place to be. Talking to people, talking to coaches, chit-chatting with the offensive line, the quarterbacks, always bragging, talking. You've seen the, inside the NFL stuff. We all heard, the back in 2019, 2020 at the Super Bowl, I'll be back here with the mother effing vengeance. And while things didn't go their way the second time around,
That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
You don't let players like George Kittle leave. You can let players like Deebo Samuel go. You can let players like Jimmy Garoppolo go. You can even swallow leaving, Kyle Juszczyk and other like Dre Greenlaw. For as much as we love him, there's reasons as to why you let him go. A lot of those are injury related and money related. George Kittle has proven to, although there have been injuries here or there, play through them, fight through them, gut it out, give this team everything he has, die for the guy next to him, and try to play 4 quarters of football every single week. He's an ambassador for the brand. Him and Claire Kittle are kind of the first family of the San Francisco 49ers right now. Maybe them and Christian and Kyle Juszczyk. And overall, they just represent the organization as a whole. And those people you have to keep. There's sponsorship deals in place. There's a brand to maintain. That's a business side. But as a football team, Kyle Shanahan needs that tight end in the room. There's no better options there. I never bought into the idea of drafting Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland to replace George Kittle. There's no promise either one of those guys become George Kittle. And George Kittle may be the most complete tight end in football. You don't find people like George Kittle in, just every single draft. They don't come around. You'll find good players. Sam Laporta's a good tight end. T.J. Hawkinson's a good tight end. Travis Kelce's obviously great, but George Kittle really is one of one. Now, you can complain about the playoff production, and that's certainly valid, but, George Kittle is somebody that belongs in red and gold till he's dead and old. That's the saying, right? He belongs in that conversation with Joe Staley, with Willis. And it's just the right move. Like, there was no sense in the world trading away George Kittle made sense. From a name brand value to a sponsorship value to a play on the field value. He does so many things for them over the middle of the football field, does the dirty work, And if losing George Kittle would be more impactful than losing Dre Greenlaw and Deebo Samuel combined. And that should not be said lightly, but it's a very true point to make. Deebo was pretty bad last year. He looked like he was kind of running low on maybe his NFL career. Dre Greenlaw had the injuries, although when healthy, really impactful. But George Kittle is a much more impactful player. And I can argue, ever since he got here in 2017, he has been their most impactful drafted player. And maybe their most impactful offensive player. Maybe isn't the most flashy. Maybe isn't, going to get you highlight reels up and down. And again, the playoff production leaves some to be wanted. But George Kittle is a player that you keep on your franchise, in your franchise forever. When he's 36 years old and he says goodbye, and he waves to the fans for one last time, walks off the field, you hope one day he can be a Lombardi holding player and be a Super Bowl champion. But he's a person you're proud to call a San Francisco 49er. And while we like players here and some players come and go, it's very rare that fans connect with a player like George Kittle. It's very rare that you have a regime come in and they make some choices you don't like in the first couple rounds, and they find this kid out of Iowa who's skinny. He's not the biggest guy, but he's got that dog in his heart and was super athletic coming out of Iowa. And really, once Jimmy Garoppolo gets here, they explode on the scene together, making plays, and then Kittle just ascends to being, his second season on the team with Nick Mullins. He broke the receiving yard record for tight ends. He's been a home run hit ever since day one. He still is there. You can go to the stats for him. Just a tremendous player. He'll have 10 years in San Francisco 49ers history on the roster. He also right now is third in franchise history in receiving yards behind Jerry Rice, which he's nowhere close to reaching his 19,000 yards, but he's just behind T.O. So again, you're talking about a player that has done things right, has a heart you love, personality you love, but also on the field is uber productive for you, and is only about 1,200-ish yards behind Terrell Owens as this team's second leading receiving yard leader. That stuff matters. You don't cut players like this. This is like if the Chargers cut Antonio Gates. This is like when the Chiefs traded away Tony Gonzalez, and we all said, huh? This is like, and I think it would have been the case had Tom Brady had stayed, but this is like the Patriots moving off of Gronkowski. You just don't let those guys go. Now, there are some circumstances involved in there. KC was rebuilding. Gonzalez is getting older. This shows you San Francisco is not rebuilding. They want to contend now. And I think, Kittle, who I think, last year climbed to this franchise's third all-time reception leader, all he needs is 50, 60 more to pass T.O. again. So when it's all said and done for George Kittle, you're going to talk about the second greatest receiving threat in Niner history. And obviously, the game has changed so much, but for a player that is really known for his blocking, which is not what Doug Gottlieb believes, but still, Kittle really is a player you point to and say, that's a guy who belongs in the red and gold forever. And I'm honestly shocked it got done so quickly. You can tell the day he got there for OTAs, it was probably in the works. You can tell they've been kind of doing things behind the scenes. And, Parag has no ties to the draft whatsoever. But I wouldn't be shocked to hear that, him and George and the agent were getting things done while the draft was going on, because it happened 2 days after the draft was over with. So they hammered this thing out. Clearly, they were not far apart on anything. This idea they're far apart, it's not going to get done, was completely bogus. This thing got done 2 days after San Francisco picked their 11th player in the draft. How far apart could you actually be? And honestly, I get it, there was an age factor, McBride being 25, 26, Kittle being 31, but when you have a player coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, so roughly, 2,100 yards, about 13 to 130 receptions, and then 14 touchdowns. That's incredible. He's had, for the last 4 years, 4 seasons in a row, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, at least 60 receptions, 765 yards, and 6 touchdowns. His 4-year totals are, what is this really fast here? 14 plus 11 is what? 25 plus 6? He had 31 touchdowns the last 4 years for you. Had over about 250 receptions and over 3,000 yards. You don't let those guys leave your building, especially as tight ends. He's outproducing the number one guys, showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, last year was his best season since 2019. The most receptions since then, the most yards since then, and the second most touchdowns since then. Last year was George Kittle's, besides maybe 2018 and 2022, when Purdy took over as quarterback late in the season, when they had like 8 touchdowns late during that second half stretch. Last year was George Kittle's second most productive season in his career. Like, I don't know why there was people saying cut him, trade him, not worth it. George Kittle's worth every single penny. Now, he has to stay healthy. You can argue that, when he's 35, 36, things are going to happen. He may have to change the way he plays football when he's 36 years old, 35 years old, be a receiving threat. But at least in the first 2-3 years of that contract, if he's healthy, which he usually is, it's going to be hard for me to say this is a bad deal for San Francisco. And I think that you do pair George with Brock Purdy for this remainder of their contracts. Kittle, for all the grief he gets for being injured, he missed, 3 games in 2021. He missed, 2 games in 2022. He missed 1 game in 2023. He missed 3 games last year, or 2 games last year. He doesn't really miss time. The only year he's missed time was 2020, when everybody missed big chunks of time. So I balk at the idea he's opted injured. That's not true. He's had injuries. All players do. It's a 17-game season plus playoffs. It's going to happen. So I think it's a great move for them. He's such a weapon for San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Look, you can look at it and say, I don't like it. It's too long. He's going to be old, and Kittle this, Kittle that. At least in the immediate, it's a home run move. It's a move you have to get done. You have to have made, and it just makes you happy. There's very few moves that San Francisco makes that aren't questioned, and you can question the offseason, cutting Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, and cutting. Or not bringing back Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. You can argue about paying Brandon Ayuk so much money and trading away Deebo Samuel and paying Deebo Samuel a lot of money. This deal you can't argue against. And it's very few times you can do that in this regime's history. The draft's always so polarizing. Pick my player. No, I like that guy better than this guy. And you can talk about the reaches they may have made, but George Kittle wasn't a reach. He was a steal. He was a gem. And now he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Anybody telling you it's a bad deal, if there's anybody saying that, just tell them to be quiet. Shut up. Now, we can't see the future, and that's the case, but you don't pay guys based on when they're 36 years old at the end of their contract. You pay guys for the next 2 to 3 years, and we have to guarantee later stuff. Now, without knowing the contract breakdown, this move may be even more in San Francisco's favor down the road. There could be a loaded up guaranteed money early and less late to give them time if George Kittle gets hurt, falls apart, to get out of the deal. So I think it's a good move. We could get a better indication of how good the move actually is for San Francisco once the contract details come out. But overall, this is a great Tuesday for Niner fans. It's really hard to say I'm upset. It's hard to find and poke holes in this because Kittle is, like Fred Warner, like they're almost, just kind of a pair. Like those guys you bring back and you don't question as to why you're doing it. Just a good day. Congrats to George Kittle. Congrats to San Francisco. Got ahead of the contract dispute, which wasn't happening, but could have happened. We heard they were far apart, and obviously it wasn't that true, but a lot of fans were like, this is going to linger throughout training camp and OTAs and all this stuff, and they got ahead of it. And I feel like they knew they had to. And I think it's really important. Like, this deal to me signifies a lot of things. One, not being a rebuild for the franchise this year. But two, it shows that they are adamant of paying people. Like, they're not against paying the players that deserve it and they believe have earned it. A lot of guys that got cut weren't that for them. And again, you can poke holes in that for sure. I have often said Leonard Floyd and Malik Collins probably shouldn't have been cut. It'd make the defensive line group a lot better, or at least, look better on paper. But if you're a good player and you've earned the money, and I think George and Fred Warner amongst everybody else on the roster have earned 3 contracts and they're going to get them. It's a player that, San Francisco doesn't mind betting on and not even gambling on. Like, you just feel comfortable. Like, the stock market now has been a roller coaster, right? And sometimes you don't mind taking a risk here or there. I'll gamble on this stock or that stock, and sometimes things don't work out. Javon Hargrave was that. Deebo Samuel may have been that for San Francisco. Dre Greenlaw, they wanted to bring him back, but there's risks there. Like, there's risks when you're playing the NFL free agency, paying people game. The Giants paid Kenny Golladay massive money. Albert Haynesworth, one of the biggest signings of all time, was the biggest bust ever. Couldn't pass an offseason physical. That's how bad it was. So there's always risks. And, San Francisco has risked a lot of money. They paid a lot of money. And they've kind of reeled things back in and tightened their pocketbooks and said, you know what, we're going to take more calculated attempts to sign our players, maybe save some money, not spread it out too much, but, pinpoint 1 or 2 guys we want to allocate big funds to. And George Kittle is one of those players. Fred Warner's probably going to get a big deal this year, next year. He'll be one of those players, and Brock Purdy will get a large chunk of change down the road too, probably in the next few months or so. But it tells you San Francisco will pay players, just not all the players anymore. They paid Lenore last year. Like, San Francisco, for all the crap we gave them for contracts, they got ahead of this one. They didn't want to deal with Purdy and Kittle back and forth. They didn't want to deal with the holdouts and the hold-ins and said, look, last year was enough. Get the guys done. And San Francisco, at least with the contracts thus far, have gotten things done. And it kind of gives me hope that George Kittle came into the room and they got that thing done like in a few days. Purdy's been in there. So I'm not saying in a week, I'm not saying in a month, but I don't think San Francisco, well, yes, they're going to penny pinch, and yes, they're going to want to save money, and it may come down to guarantees or years of the contract. To me, this tells, the fan base tells myself, like, I don't think a Purdy deal is that far away. I don't think you're going to hear, we're in late May, we're in July, and like, season's here, and he's not in the building. And Brock's already there, and, it may be a good time to pause for a second to remind you to use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. George Kittle just got paid big money. You want to see him live? Use that promo code and actually save yourself some money while you see, hopefully, George Kittle in red and gold for the next 4 to 5 seasons. Use that promo code and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Let's go to Brock Purdy, because a lot of what I said the last couple minutes or so relate to Brock Purdy's contract and getting it done relatively soon. Again, not lingering too far. And it does show signs that a Purdy deal is maybe closer to getting done than all the reports indicate, which has been a back and forth of, okay, getting a deal done looks pretty close, then it's pretty far off, and now it's not too far off now. It's been very confusing. Nobody really knows what's happening, which makes things intriguing and really frustrating for fans. But I'd say this, they're going to get a deal done, and knowing Kittle got in the building and then 2 days later he was done, like, that makes me comfortable that they're not messing around. They realize how important getting all those guys in the building are, because of how bad last year was and how reliant on young players they're going to be this year. Purdy knows that. That's why he was there day one. Warner knows that. Trent Williams, who wasn't there until like the Thursday prior to week 1, he was there. There is maybe this like last dance kind of vibe. I don't want to call it that because they had so many guys leave this offseason, so last year was kind of that for them. But there is this like, we don't want to skip a beat. We don't want to miss a year, take a year off. We don't want to be the Rams in 2023. We want to be the Rams last year. We want to be Philadelphia last year. And obviously, you have to set the expectations at a realistic level for you. But I think having those guys in the building on day one, like that to me is an indication that the players, the coaching staff, the regime, the GMs, even Parag, they're not messing around. They know how important this year is. And even if the expectation is to be the Rams 2 years ago where they're younger, they surprise some people, they make some, they make a way for themselves, go into the playoffs, maybe upset a team or two and have a 2021 like season, or be those Rams and get bounced in the first round. Like give the Lions a real tough go for their money. I think San Francisco is like, we have to hit the ground running, and getting Kittle done here this early on April 29th. That's a big load off of their shoulders. And now you have your entire offense ready to go from day one. Like that to me matters. Like that to me is really important. And I think it impacts, the timeline of Brock Purdy's next contract whenever that gets done. I don't think it'll be this hold out, hold in crap. I think they'll get it done. And I wouldn't be lying, or I'd be lying if I say I wasn't shocked that they got it done. Like, this was a surprising, like, I woke up today at 6 a.m. on the West Coast in California, and that deal was done an hour before I was awake. And I was like, what the heck? Like, really? This was a random, like, there was no news about it. There was no rumors of like, oh, a deal's close, watch out. There was no Schefter, Diana Rossini. There was nothing coming out. And it was just like, bang. And I think I like that. One thing that agonizes fans is the constant, will they, won't they? The constant, okay, it's getting close. No, it's not close. And Kittle's was like a one-day thing. He immediately shot down the rumors and said, it's nonsense, not true. And then bang, a deal was done. I want more deals done like that. Why can't all the deals get done like that? And maybe that's signs of times of changing. Maybe that's a sign that they realize, we have to be a little bit proactive to get deals done. Obviously, I think Mayoko said they kind of botched the tight end extension talk because they didn't get it done prior to Trey McBride. And I get that, but now knowing what the contract is, he's making $0.1 million more than McBride when it comes to average annual value. I think he's making like $4 million more guaranteed, and it's George freaking Kittle. So it's like, in retrospect, sometimes you say things that you think are right, but then you go, oh, it actually wasn't that bad at all. Okay. So man, it's a good day. It's a good day, and I think it shows good signs for the future of San Francisco and Brock Purdy's deal. But also just like happy to have George Kittle back forever as a Niner. He'll probably go into the Hall of Fame or the Ring of Fame, whatever they have there in San Francisco at the stadium. He'll be in the museum one day if he already isn't. I haven't seen it since 2017, whenever it opened up out there at Levi's. He's just a lifelong 49er, and these are guys you keep around forever. I'm happy they did it. And I think him signing a 4-year contract, like I said before, I think it gives you a good idea of the timelines. You're probably going to see Brock Purdy sign that 4-year contract extension, and you're going to have Purdy and Kittle's contract mirror each other. They want to keep those guys together for as long as they can. And look, Kittle may be 36 years old when it's all said and done, and Purdy may flame out for all we know. I don't think he will, but he may. But they realize Purdy is his best with George Kittle. Kittle has been his best with Brock Purdy. I think you're going to see a 4-year contract for Brock Purdy, probably around $53-55 million. And then we'll get guaranteed money later. But I think it's a good sign. There's good timelines, and I think you're going to see a mirroring of the timelines for Kittle's career to end in San Francisco and Brock's first big contract with the 49ers. But Tell me down below what you think. Do you love the deal? Do you somehow hate the deal? What do you balk at? What do you love about it? And are you happy like myself? It's out of the way, folks. Kittle's done. Locked up with the San Francisco 49ers for 4 years. $76.4 million. Now the NFL's highest paid tight end of all time. Well deserved, well earned. And to tell me down below in the comments what you think. You can also tell me on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can get that promo code right here on your screen or down below in the description. 49ers Access, 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And you can get yourself a case of goat fuel down below using our link and save yourself 10% off your purchase. It is the best healthy coffee alternative and the best energy drink on the market, made by and sponsored by and created by the GOAT himself, Jerry Rice. So, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review, and drop your thoughts on George Kittle's brand new contract extension. Highest paid tight end of all time in franchise history. Going to be hopefully a lifelong San Francisco 49er, and maybe one day go into Canton rocking the red and gold till he's dead and old. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star audio podcast review, and as always, just like George Kittle, until next time, stay faithful.